Good afternoon. Today is the 4th of October, and it's time for yet another very vague, not particularly interesting, and probably quite boring vlog. I've had a situation over the last few months of trying to get an exhaust centre section for my 1990 Rover 216 GSI automatic. I assumed after the problems I had finding various parts for my Rover 45 V6, of which there are, 53 on the road or something like that at the moment, that this wouldn't be a problem with a car that I thought was a bit more common. You know, there are quite a few Rover 216s left, both the R8 type and the R3 type, the later R3 which came in 1995, and of course there are some 216s from before that, the SD3 shape. But this has proven to be quite a difficulty. I'm like getting out of this junction, and eventually we have managed to sort something out, I think. But we'll tell you all about the journey that I've had when I get out of this junction. I really wish the local council would do something about a junction. It's been like that since about the time I was born 40 years ago. Anyway, when I picked up the Rover 216, you've probably seen the very vague vlog from, I don't know, some point in August or early September, where I showed you the car and Mr. Coleman was there, and we sort of went through some of the issues with the car. He's resolved many of them, things like the cam belt and the front brakes and the lower suspension arms and all sorts of things like that. He's given it a bit of a clean and that sort of stuff. There are some other things that need doing. Cosmetic. It needs a bit of rust treatment on the rear arch. It's not serious, but it needs a bit. It needs a new headliner, and some of the paint just on the roof has had some lack appeal. That needs addressing. But more importantly, it needs an MOT. I always knew it needed that, and the chap I bought it off is actually a channel viewer. He offered it to me at a good price, because I just said, just leave it as it is, we'll get the MOT, we'll get that sorted, don't worry about it. And the main things for that were the tyres, which are absolutely and utterly shot, and were advised last time, and the exhaust system. And it's got a nice hole in the centre section, and I thought, no problem, this will be a relatively expensive part, it can't be that bad, we can find this exhaust, and then we can have an MOT with some new tyres on it, and that'll be fun. I'll come pick it up and we'll enjoy it, take it to some shows, maybe Beer Autumn Rally, maybe the Departure Lounge Classic Car Sunday, which was 1st of October, and then the Bracefield Car Show in Romsey on the 8th of October. None of those events either have been or will be with that car. The first company I tried to find an exhaust centre section from, they looked like they had one in stock. Now bear in mind, it's a 1990 this car, and unlike the Volvo 460 and things like that, catalytic converters at Rover were not really a thing for quite a while. They weren't sort of early adopters or pioneers like BMW or Mercedes were in this country, and Volvo were very early adopters over here, and one of the first cars to have a cat at all in this country was my mother's 1989 Volvo 240 Estate, which actually had one. It was a 90 model year, but registered November 89. So this being in June 1990, it was just not really a thing for most people, although when the European Union actually said that, from January 1993 there will be a whole new set of emission standards brought into force, and we're going to call that Euro 1. A lot of people just started fitting catalytic converters and hoped that that would solve a problem, in which in large case it did. Things like the Renault 5 Campus actually is just the old 1.4 Clermont engine with single point injection and a catalytic converter. Nissan with a GA16 engine, they actually thought that engine was so good and so clean they didn't need a cat. I'm sorry, they didn't need to put a fuel injection on it. They could put a cat on it, but they didn't put a fuel injection on it. There were some cars that actually managed to comply with regulations without the catalytic converters, I think. But the majority of people, even the minis were all 1.3 from, I think, 91 and 92, and like from late 92 they all had catalytic converters. Even the A series had the same treatment. But back in 1990 this wasn't really happening, and so this car just doesn't have one. In 1991 Revo 200 SLI Auto I had quite early on in the channel's history in 2020, that also had no cap. November 1991. All the 200s and 400s were standardised catalytic converters with the facelift that occurred in late 1992. So they kind of left it quite late on, rather than being like Volvo and pretty much introducing them all by kind of early 91. I think most Volvos had catalytic converters. But that means that you're in this funny period between 1989, when the 200 was launched, or that Chevy 200 was, the R8, and late 1992, when there was a very minor facelift to the 200 and 400 range with new indicators on the front. And that's how you can tell a car that definitely has a cat on it, because that's when they introduced all of them. So I think it was October 1992. So it's actually more common these days to find exhausts for the catalytic converter equipped cars rather than the ones without one. I think mine might be a bit different because it's an auto, but I'm not sure. So the section also shared, I think, with things like the 216 SLI and GTI, where GTI had a different bat box, I think, but I think the section was the same. So I thought this wouldn't be too bad. We found a company that was going to supply it. The company just decided that because it was actually a part listed for a Honda Concerto, which was basically the same car as the 200, I mean, quite down to the engine, some of the interior bits, and in fact most of the car was the same as a Concerto. But because I have a registration number of the Rover, they weren't going to send it to me, even though we had the part number. We have the exact part number, aftermarket system by Clarius, that I wanted to be replaced. If they had the exact part number, they wouldn't give it to me because, according to their records, it didn't match, which was an absolute utter pain. And I tried to go back and reorder it and try again, but they just wouldn't let me do it. They have some sort of quirky system or something, so I couldn't do that. Mr. Coleman found me another one, which I ordered on the 9th of August, and now it's 4th of October. Apparently that has been delivered today, but it took me an absolute age to get anywhere with that. First of all, they were on holiday, the company, which I sort of saw on there, so no problem, I'm not going to need this until maybe sort of mid-September or something, and I can pick it up and take it down to the Bearlaws and rally, and it'll be absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever. No need to get worried about. So time passed and I heard nothing. So on the 11th of September, I contacted them and said, look, you know, what's happened? I realised, you know, you had this break and whatever, but it said to be back on the 28th of August. Like, where is it? She said, oh dear, well, we're so sorry, it's a really rare part, can't find any in the UK, gonna have to get it from abroad. I was thinking, like, well, it's not really my problem. If you either have or don't have an exhaust, this isn't Schrodinger's cat, where like the exhaust might or might not be in your warehouse, and either isn't, or it is. So I thought I'll just wait, you know, okay, we've passed our time, and I'm not going to get to the Bearlaws rally in the car, because obviously Mr. Coleman's going to find time in his schedule when he's really busy, has a full-time job, in order to fit this exhaust as well as everything else he's doing. He's also then got to go get some tyres for it, and he's got to go to his Uncle Neil's place, where I get most of my MOTs done. It's a place in Nuneaton called RM Autos is the name of the place, yeah, you know, I get all the MOTs done there generally. He's got to book in with Uncle Neil and get it done. Then I've got to come pick it up. So there's a bit of a lead-in time here. And I thought, okay, well, just got to wait. And then nothing. So a couple of days ago, I wrote him an email saying, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I've not had anything for more than 3 weeks. I ordered it on the 9th of August. you don't actually supply this exhaust, then will give me a refund. Like, you know, I could spend the money elsewhere. Then, you know, you're actually in breach of contract because you listed something that wasn't there. You could have just not listed it, and I could have wasted my time. And you still got my money, so I'd like a refund, please. Fortunately, the tone of my email saying that, you know, I'd like my consumer rights protected sort of thing, it actually worked. And they said, well, it's been really difficult, it's so hard to find these things and all this sort of thing. And we pride ourselves in finding parts that nobody else can. I was like, well, that doesn't really help me, does it? Because you're taking an absolute age, and, you know, the timing is not good now. I'm not going to make it to like probably the last show of this season. There will be some shows maybe in December or January I can take it to, but pretty much this is it. It's over for it. And apparently they are sending it to Mr. Coleman's house today, which, as he says, Mr. Coleman is a very straight talking person. He said, I will believe it when I see it. And that's where we are. It seems that actually I'm not the only one. I've heard of steering racks being very difficult to obtain for Alfa Romeo 164s, more Rover exhaust woes with Rover 800s, particularly the 2-litre engines, the T-Series, and also on my Rover 45 V6, I think I found one of the very last back boxes for that in the country in 2021. Because if you've got really small numbers of a car around, like there's not many 164s around, the 2-litre 800 I don't really know, because there's quite a few of those still around. I don't know why they're so difficult to find, but they are. And this steering rack for Alfa 164, I mean, there's not many of those around either. Thing is, though, that you can do something about this if you don't want to try to wait for someone to give you the exact part. I mean, there's probably not too many pre-cat 216s and 416s left. You can either get someone to reproduce the part for you, just in a custom basis, and Mr. Richardson from the Furious Driving channel, who has many R8s, he did actually say to me that, you know, this is what you could do. There's a company in Kent that does that. There's a company where Mr. Coleman lives who could do that. Like, you can sort of try to reproduce the original exhaust by doing a sort of custom job. But obviously the most interesting thing to do of all is to get a stainless steel system for the car. Now on that one, it probably costs around £600 to get that done. And at the moment, I mean, it might change in the future, but at the moment that car's not worth a huge amount of money. It's worth, I think, actually something more than the 45 V6 was, which is weird, but I think it might have been. But it's not worth anywhere near the cost that would justify me getting a stainless steel system for it, unless I absolutely had to. So I hope this actually works, because it's very annoying, and it's meant that I bought the car around the 25th of July and it's now 4th of October and I've never driven it. I mean, I've had a look at it, I've started it, I've sat in it, and Mr. Coleman shoveled it up and down his driveway, but that's it. So, you know, all this work he's done, he's got the rocker cover off, and he's refurbished it, and he's done the cam cover gasket, and done the cam belt, and, you know, water pump and all this sort of thing, a full service. He's worked very hard on it, you know, which has been very kind of him, with amongst everything else he's doing. But I want to have my car to enjoy for myself, rather than just sitting on Mr. Coleman's driveway wondering when I can drive it. And this is just something I think that happens in the classic car world these days, trying to find parts. This is why I don't really need it at the moment. We've got other cars that we can use, otherwise it would be a little bit more difficult. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below, and we shall see you again for more incredibly vague music.